Last week on the Nicoletti Show. Let's welcome him to the show, Neil Timmons.
You know, there's pros and cons in every single asset class. Nothing's perfect. We're looking for properties that we call it dented and scratched. Unlike the single family home where literally they're dented and scratched, right? If you've got experience in single family homes, I'm telling you, it's easier than you think it is.
That advice right there was fascinating.
We were able to come in and change our management. And that simply just meant enforce the leases, because there was a bunch of things not being enforced in the leases. It's not so much going out like what you would have just labeled. It's actually looking inward.
You never know what area is booming, right?
You know, the city is not going to hide anything from you. They're going to tell you what their plans are. So it can be as simple as just talking to the guys at the city.
Is mobile home communities like parks?
Yeah,
like,
mobile home parks, mobile home communities. Same thing.
So that's considered commercial real estate.
It's considered commercial real estate, yes.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Two very simple things: rent rates, and then also vacancy. What's the current vacancy and what's a market vacancy? If you go in and a property is 98% occupied, it's entirely possible that those rents are under market value.
I'm learning so much about commercial real estate tonight. I didn't know before.
We're buying real estate, but we're also solving problems. Solve people problems and it becomes a real estate solution. That's the goal on the commercial side.
Amazing episode. I want to say thank you again for being on.
I appreciate what you do and your energy, and it's what you deliver to your audience.
Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday Night Live in the Nicoletti studio. I'm so excited for the guest that we're going to have on the show tonight. But let me just say, if you missed last week's episode with Neil Timmons, I was mind blown, and I think everybody was too in the comment section. We could barely keep up with the questions in the comments, but it was unbelievable how we learned so much about commercial real estate, things like self-storage, RV parks, anything with giant commercial spaces. There's so much to learn when it comes to that. And it's a niche that I haven't had on the show before. And Neil, what we were on for like 2 hours, and he dropped so much knowledge when it came to commercial investing. If you missed it, you got to go back and watch that. That was like a little snippet right there, right? Recap of the Nicoletti Show from last week. You got to watch it. I'm on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. You can catch me on YouTube, Facebook under Al Nicoletti, and at Attorney Nicoletti, where all the micros constantly dropping. And of course, I got my videos on probate, quiet title, and all the weird stuff in the title world. So make sure you go check that out. Tonight is going to be super exciting because it's a topic that everybody is loving right now. Everybody wants to learn about short-term rentals and Airbnb and that market. It's hot. After COVID, things really changed and the market changed for a lot of companies, a lot of people vacationing, and it's a topic that we can really dive in on and everybody can learn from, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. It doesn't matter where we are. So you all know I love my intro because we got to begin the show hot and we got to get rolling into this because the guest, Mark Marcellus, is on fire when it comes to Airbnb. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their community that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate and other niche markets that are all over the country. Whether it's in Florida, Georgia, Texas, you all know I don't just even have a Florida viewership. You know, in the beginning of the Al Nicoletti Show, like season 1, we were like, oh, Florida real estate, Florida. And then I'm speaking here, I'm going to this event, and we're going to all over the country, Milwaukee, Houston, name it, Phoenix, wherever it is. And we're meeting so many investors that are getting into different markets wherever they are, and they're inspired by learning these things. They want to learn all of this stuff when it comes to their different markets, what they can do, and there's so much in common with what we could do in Florida real estate and beyond. So amazing stuff that we can learn from guests on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show today, I have the man, the myth, the legend when it comes to short-term rentals, Mark Marcellus. I love this guy. We met, I think it had to be like 3-4 years ago. I remember, I don't know if it was on Facebook or we were at a meeting, and I remember Mark was like, hey man, I see you're the probate guy, and let me ask you something. I want to ask you something on some transaction stuff. And I'm like, I got to get together with this guy. I got to see what this guy is all about. Like all this stuff that he gets into. I've seen his stuff. I've gone to meetings, Glenn Friedman's big group and in Orange Park. So it's crazy that fast forward 4 years later, we are friends. We collaborate. We love talking about real estate and we keep in touch. And he's been working on this Airbnb stuff for quite a while. And we're going to learn so much about this stuff. We're going to learn what the different types of Airbnbs are, how Mark got started, right? Everybody wants to know how you even get started. And I was telling Mark backstage, when I hear people that see my story get posted and they say, hey, I want to learn about Airbnb. I want to learn all about this stuff. And how do we even get into it? I may want to do 1 a month or 2 a month, or who knows, 30 a year. Who knows what that number is? He's going to really dive in on that. And we're going to talk about so much about inspirational things, how we got inspired by this stuff and what to look for, red flags, pitfalls, successes, and how you can succeed in the short-term rental market. So I'm so excited. I don't know if you all can tell, 9 o'clock at night, that's nothing for me. I could do this at 3 a.m. in the morning. I'll try that one time. Who knows? But I'm so excited. So without further ado, let's welcome him to the show live in the Al Nicoletti studio, Mark Marcellus. Mark, man, what's going on, brother?
What's going on? What an introduction, man. That's fantastic.
See, you're backstage, you see me and, I'm just chilling, hanging out with you. And you're like, wait a second.
And then
it's on. Something's going to explode and come out of here.
I love it. I love the energy. I love the excitement. I think what you're doing is great. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of exciting things. And, to get people out there and to share, I think it's huge. I really do. I think it's huge.
Thanks, man. It's crazy how the show's morphed too. It went from pre-recorded to then live. And we love live because we love the followers and the fans out there because we want them to engage. We want them to ask questions. Everybody look at that. We already got people dropping. Questions. Coach Gio's there. Camille's watching. I mean, that's what's so great about having. Coach. Yeah, he's out there. Look at that. What's going on, Gio?
Gio.
I love it. I love it. We see you all out there. And that's what's so great about the episode being live. So, Mark, you're here. I'm happy. So happy you're on the show. You got to tell everybody, who's Mark Marcellus? Where did it really begin for you in real estate? How did it transform? And where are you today?
Wow. Loaded question, Al. So it all started back in 1971. Okay. No, I don't need to go back that far. But I did grow up in the area. I grew up in Middleburg, and my grandmother was a real estate agent in Orange Park. The building that she owned is still in existence for a while. It was actually the Exit Realty building on Highway 17 and Park Avenue in Orange Park. But she ran a little real estate office, had 8 or 9 real estate agents, and my start was I was 12 years old sitting in that office typing contracts for her and for my mother, and we were just knocking them out. And my dad walks in and he literally put a paintbrush in my hand and said, "Come on, man, we're going to go paint this house." And that was my entry into it. And then fast forward about 10 years later, I bought my first house and my dad and I worked on it. That kind of stuff. I still have that house today. Wow. Coincidentally enough, it's not going to shock anybody. It's an Airbnb right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, what a shocker for the night. That's it. We got it.
But yeah, I bought that house when I was 24, lived in it, did house hacking, did all the normal stuff to kind of get started. But, my parents showed me how to do all this stuff. And I always compartmentalize it. I'm like, that's, you can do that. I'm not able to do that. You can do that. And it wasn't until, there's a lot of things that happened. So I got started in my career and I had to decide, am I going to focus on real estate like my parents did, or am I going to branch out and do my own thing? And of course, young and idealistic, I'm going to branch out and do my own thing. Right. I get an English degree. I, work in the mortgage world, which is kind of close to real estate, but not really real estate. Taught school for a few years. It just did a lot of things. And then when the economic downturn happened in 2008, I had, pretty much sold everything that I had going on at that time. I kind of felt a sigh of relief. I'm like, wow, I kind of dodged a bullet somehow,
Right.
But I still did have the one house, and I kept that one going. I took a job, and just kind of put my head down and got through it. And then after that, that led to another job, which led to a business. I was running a business for a while. A buddy of mine calls me up, and he says, I need $4,000. I'm like, get out of here. What do you need $4,000 for? He's like, we're going to buy a house. I'm like, come on, man. Now, this is 2016.
Right.
So I'm like, come on, we're not going to buy a house for $4,000. I was like, all right, sure enough. We logged on, bought a house.
Amazing.
Sight unseen. I think, well, no, it wasn't sight unseen. We actually walked it. And it had a, one of those condemn notices.
Okay.
And he explained to me, well, a condemn notice is not really a condemn notice. I'm like, dude, it's red, it's big, it's from the city. It looks like it's a condemn notice to me. And that's when he went on to explain that. He says, yes, they will condemn homes, but they condemned this one because the power had been off for 3 years. We don't know for sure that it's the structure. And I'm like, well, we don't know for sure that it's not.
Right.
But, hey, we took a shot. We bought a whole house for $4,000, turned around and sold it to an investor. We had a great return on it. I mean, we, more than doubled our money on it.
Yeah.
Because we did a little, lipstick on the pig stuff, threw a paint job on it.
Get your money's worth, right?
Yeah.
Make some good margins there.
And then that guy bought it and did a complete rehab on it and then sold it and made a profit. So everybody won out. And that kind of got me back into the world. And when I was running this business, I was running an insurance business and I was having some success. But I wasn't as successful as I wanted. Like there were members in my peer group that were just killing it.
In 2016,
2016, 2017, right in that wheelhouse. And so I qualified for some of the incentive trips from the insurance companies, based on production, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife comes to me one time and it's an innocent enough question, but she's like, how come all these people are talking about how much money they're making and we're not making that kind of jack, dude? Like, what gives? And I really didn't have an answer for her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my heart kind of sunk into my stomach, because I realized, while she was happy that I had a business and that it was going and that everything was, kind of progressing, that, she knew I wanted more. And I knew I wanted more, and I didn't know what the missing piece of the puzzle was. So there's always that voice in the back of my head that's like nagging at me going, man, you should be doing better. You should be working harder. You should be blah, 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 blah. Right. And I'm like, it really caused me to kind of reevaluate. Now, at the same time, we had just done this house thing. I did it with Greg Brady, if anybody knows.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice. Shout out to Greg.
Since run off to Thailand, just having a blast. But, I went back to Greg and I'm like, okay, well, that was great. How do we do it again? How do we do it again? How do we do it again? And, we ventured into Airbnbs quite by accident. So you remember I said I won an incentive cruise.
Right.
I go on this cruise. Now, when I get on a cruise or walk through a casino, there's two places you can find me, right? The craps table and the poker table. Okay?
I've seen your poker stuff, man.
Right? Okay, so that's two places you can find me. So, of course, there was a craps table that was on the boat. And the president of the company also likes playing craps.
Nice.
So it was all of my friends just invading this craps table. Yeah. And we destroyed it the last night we were there. They brought 2 buckets of cash to refill the well twice while we were there.
Wow.
I mean, we all pulled, just triple digit returns, just ridiculous. Yeah. So when the dust settled, I pulled $4,000 off that boat, and I used that $4,000 to start my first Airbnb.
Wow.
I went to my buddy, Jeff Weller, and I said, hey man, you've got a beach house. and it's for rent, right? He's like, yeah. And I said, how much you renting it for? He's like, I want $1,400 for it. I was like, okay, I want to rent it from you. And then I'm going to put it out on Airbnb. Now this is patient zero. And I do have a photo of it. I'll find somewhere to put the photo of it.
Yeah.
We still have it to this day. Okay. So I started paying him rent. And I went and I made all the mistakes. Single night bookings, 18-year-old bookings, wanting a place to smoke their weed. Like I broke every rule in the book without even knowing what the rule book was. Right.
Yeah.
But it was still making money. I got off that cruise in June and we got it up and running and live by July. And, the moment I got off the boat and had cell coverage, I texted Jeff and I'm like, hey man, I got your money, man. We're ready to do this. And he goes, oh, I think I just rented it out. And I'm like, what do you mean you just rented it out? We had this locked down.
Right.
But because I was gone, he didn't hear from me.
Right.
So he just thought, poof, like
things happen that fast.
Right. Things happen that fast. Yeah. So I literally dropped my wife off, drove from my house to Jeff's house, put the cash on the table and said, let's go, man. Come on, let's figure this out. Right. He looked at me, looked at the cash and looked at me, looked at the cash and he swiped it. And then, we've just been going from there.
I love it.
And so from that point forward, when, obviously we're not going to find a $4,000 house and throw it out on Airbnb, although people have done that. But we were just looking for different situations. Okay. So we started talking to wholesalers and, my friend came to me and said, listen, I just need to get rid of this house. It's literally sliding off its foundation. And I'm like, so we negotiated the deal for that. And we wound up putting that out on auction. We just did a lot of cool things.
Yeah.
And then so we made some money there. And then we put that into our next Airbnb. I even bought an Airbnb on hard money thinking, look, we'll get it going. We'll get it up and running. We'll have it making some money and then we'll refinance it. Well, we were not able to refinance it. So the Airbnb was doing okay, but it was just feeding the hard money loan. So, you got to really, I learned some tough lessons along the way, and then the name of our channel is One Airbnb at a Time. So if you just type in Facebook, One Airbnb at a Time, you'll find me because that's how we built it. One Airbnb at a time. At about 5 or 6 Airbnbs, I go to Obi Dorsey's networking event because at that point, Greg had kind of said, listen, you have to go to these networking events. I'm like, people.
Yeah.
Right. And I
can't see you saying that though.
Right. Well,
you're a people person.
I am. I'm an extroverted introvert or an introverted extrovert. I'm still trying to figure that out, but apparently that's a thing. So, he's like, hey, come to this one, come to this one, come to this one. Well, I go to one, and I meet a guy named Glenn Friedman.
Mm-hmm.
And Glenn says to me, he winds up sitting right next to me. And he says to me, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, I've got, 5 or 6 Airbnbs and, just kind of keeping it real. Got a little insurance business going on the side, buy and sell, do a little bit of wholesaling, not much. And of course, Glenn's favorite question when you say the wholesale word is, oh, well, how many deals have you done? Because,
yes.
Often it's like, oh, I'm still looking for that first one.
Right.
But, at least I could say, oh, I've got, 3 or 4 under my belt, nothing major, but, flip here, flip there, whatever I can do. And he was like, okay. And then he started asking me about numbers of the Airbnb. And what we were finding at the time is that, the little apartment in the back at Crescent Street, for example, would rent for, $800 a month. And we were making $200 to $2,500 a month off of a little 800 square foot apartment in the back of a house. Right. And then the 3-bedroom up front was making, $3,500. And that was when that house would have rented for about $1,100 or $1,200. I mean, of course the rents are up now. But it was about triple the revenue. And I started sharing these numbers with Glenn, and he's like, 2 or 3 lunches later, I explained to him, I'm pretty close, a couple more, Airbnbs. My whole thing is if you 3 Airbnbs to financial freedom, because no matter where your level of bills are or what you need to kind of cover yourself, you can do it in multiples of 3s. So 3 Airbnbs to financial success. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 6, maybe it's 9.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a doctor would need 15.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's if you can get 3, right? Or if you can get 1, you can get 3. And if you can get 3, you can get as many as you want, right? As many as you want to manage.
Can I tell you something that's really crazy?
Sure.
So I remember when we had lunch, right? We sat down European Street, we had lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when you were sitting there talking about, the tenants and the management that you were getting into. I didn't know you were into Airbnbs. I didn't know you were into short-term rentals. Like my immediate thought was, oh, Mark, does long-term hold management, owns these properties, works with the investors to help.
Right.
And then it's like, boom, it's like, wait a second. No, it's been this all along.
It's been this all along. And then I do that kind of tertiary. So I would look for owner finance deals. I would look for, let me find a guy that wants to retire and he's tired of getting the phone call in the middle of the night that the toilet is busted, that the well is busted, that the septic smells.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Well, we upgraded him from landlord to lender. And his properties were underperforming so much that he could write me 100% mortgage and make just about the same money that he was making renting it out. And that was the sixplex that I bought. And you and I specifically talked about the
that.
Sixplex.
Yes.
And
That's
you had a lot of questions for me, and I had a lot of questions for you.
Yes. I just didn't cross my mind that even back then, because this was pre-COVID.
That's
right?
true.
It was pre-COVID.
Oh my God. I closed on the Sixplex 3.5 weeks later, shut down.
Wow.
So the shutdown happens, and I've got to go there every day and kind of help out with the rehab. I had a contractor rehabbing one unit. My brother was stuck in Florida. He couldn't travel at that point. I'm like, well, you're stuck in Florida. You might as well help me rehab this other unit. I went on lockdown for 3 days. My kids, my wife, I love them, but after 3 days, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm gone.
Yeah. Time to do other stuff, right?
Well, because by that time it's like, okay, if you're in construction, you're needed so you can be out and about. And it wasn't, chaos in the streets and just, it wasn't all that silliness. It was just everybody was home.
Right.
There was no traffic.
Yeah.
So every day I went to the Sixplex, and that's kind of how I got through the pandemic. But at the same time, we had a big decline. March of 2020, we were on our way to breaking records.
Wow.
We were on our way to breaking records. So when I closed out the month, it really wasn't all that bad. It was April that was brutal because Airbnb had canceled probably, I think, like 30% of our reservations. Then the governor came out and said, we're going to shut down Airbnbs unless you're traveling for work. Well, I like that little out he gave us. I updated all the listings. At the time, I think we had like 40 of them. I updated all of them, say, still open for business. If you're traveling for work, look us up.
Right.
Right. And so we had a 60% decline. And by August of 2020, we were overpowering our record break, but back in March.
Right.
And we were also doing it with more units too, because I was accelerating, taking on more units. So I have a handful of these Airbnbs now that I own, and then I manage the rest. And I have a total, the current total is sitting somewhere around 106 Airbnbs.
That's crazy. I remember you were telling me that it was like in the hundreds. I'm like, wow, like this is crazy. Not only do you own that property and own all these others, you're helping manage them and getting more people in.
Right.
And we'll talk about that. I've had different guests on that have talked about Airbnbs, right? Jason Matthews on, he's in Tampa, loves the Airbnb market. Glenn Friedman. I've had Michael Guju, the attorney, talking about Airbnbs and knowing your local municipalities and learning statutes. And we had George Solis on, George talking about how you build the wealth through the Airbnb. But I think the one thing that is really interesting with this, and everybody out there, we want to see what's going on right now. Look at this. We got people watching. Kevin's watching. Camille, Lynn, True's watching. See, Mark Monroe, what's going on, man? We want to make sure that if you have any questions, Camille. I met Camille when I was in Harrisburg. I'm going on tour.
Big shout out to Camille, dude. I see what you put in the comments here, man. Just fight through it, man. Find your way. It's there. It's there for you. I promise.
Yeah, Camille is killing it in his market. So they love what he's doing out there. But the one thing I want everybody to do is ask questions on how you really get started in this niche. Like, how do you get really into it? Because what I learned from being at the Hive Mind event this past weekend, I had Desiree. She comes up to me. We're at the dinner on the last night, and she was telling me all about the show and how she loves these guests that are on. And the one thing that's so different about the show is seeing it from the perspective of either somebody new or somebody doing it, but how?
Right.
How do you start? How do you get into it? And this is what I was thinking about, like when backstage yesterday. I'm like, wait a second, we got to ask these questions. Like, we're gonna have new people on.
I mean, I'm gonna write a book, and I'm gonna focus on one Airbnb at a time.
Love it.
And therein lies your answer. How do you do it? One Airbnb at a time. I read a book years and years ago called, one bite at a time, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Right.
And that's how you do it. It slowly builds. And then as I, when you fast forward now, it's like, okay, we've got $3.4 million in rent that have flowed through, in a year, and a lot of that is for the owners. And I get that. That's fine. So then I have all those accounting complications. And then, so there's challenges at every level at this game. Please don't mistake this for, it's easy. It's not easy. But I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to earn the beans. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to hire people to count the beans.
Right.
And when they come to me and say, what is this? What is that? I was like, look, hey, I make the beans. I'm looking I got a house. I want to get $6,000 for that house in the month. That's what I'm looking to do. And then I just keep everything separated. So if it comes in on that house, it gets expense to that house. That's how it works.
Right.
So, and that's just the easiest way to do it. So compiling all that data, like we're at month end right now. So it's like, it's on.
It's on. And love it.
I mean, she worked all day today. She's working all day tomorrow, because I got to prepare all the numbers and all that kind of stuff. So we're writing a book, and we're doing the blog, and we're doing, we're working on a training series, all that kind of stuff to answer those questions. But really, one of the things that I want to share with the audience out there is there's really 3 types of Airbnb investors, right? Airbnb is kind of like the Q-tip of the world. So, or Scotch tape. Scotch tape is not really Scotch tape. Scotch tape is a 3M brand, right? We just call it Scotch tape. Right? It's really just clear-sided sticky tape, right? A Q-tip is just a cotton ball on the end of a stick. We just call it Q-tip, and that's the brand. Okay, same thing. I've got an Airbnb, but it's really a short-term rental. It could be VRBO. It could be direct on your own site. It could be Booking.com, even Expedia, and travel. All these OTAs get in the game. And jargon world, OTA is online travel agency. Okay, so Airbnb is the big elephant in the room. Like, they have the lion's share of the market, but the market is just so big. If somebody could break in and even get a sliver, it's going to be world changing for them. Right. And even with me at 100, we've got an initiative that we're working on in our company to triple to 300. We do have a way of doing it. We just kind of have to change. We just kind of have to change a few things about what we're doing.
Yeah.
and systemize even more.
Yeah.
Because once I got to about 35 or 40, I could no longer handle it myself. I couldn't be the one to go visit the properties. I couldn't be the one to count the beans. I couldn't be the one to, I needed help.
Yeah.
So I started hiring.
Right.
And I used virtual assistants, and that really helped, keep my costs down, so that we could grow and expand rapidly. And, even right now, there could be a message coming in, or there could be something serious happening. And, the virtual assistants are going to be there to intercept it and take care of it.
Right.
Long enough for me to get through this conversation.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. They're doing everything on the side. So you don't have to do that stuff.
Right. And so, getting back to the three types of investors that work in our world. Okay. So you've got a person, I call them lions, tigers, and bears, right? So a lion is somebody who's very savvy, very experienced, has the resources to go out and buy a house. They can go buy a house that's all pretty, dolled up, ready. They just need to make a few changes for the Airbnb, put their furniture in, and then they're ready to go. They have budgets, they have financing lined up, or they have cash. They have everything they need. Okay. So that's one type of investor. All right. Another type of investor is, I call them tigers. So for years and years and years, there are people that have been buying homes and accumulating them. Of course, when was the best time to buy a home? Oh, about 5 years ago at any given time. That's the best time to buy real estate. 5 years ago from wherever you were.
When's the next one?
Right, exactly.
Today.
When's the next one? Right. So these people have been buying them when they were cheap. So they can compete out in the marketplace, especially people that already own out at the beach. There was a time in our world, in Jacksonville Beach, where they couldn't give these properties away. Mm-hmm. And it was a real concern. Like, gosh, we've got so many properties out at the beach, and they're run down, and they're little shacks, and we could only rent them to people who wanted to kind of live that bohemian lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And then the yuppies started moving in, and it just exploded, right? Well, there are people that own, I know people, I encounter them. They own 5, 10, 15, 20 of these units, in the beaches area.
Right.
And and the appreciation is just, 10-fold, 20-fold. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
You could get a modest home, right? That's 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, low pitch roof, built in 1956. It's $520,000 out at the beach. Right? You see what I'm saying?
Crazy, yeah.
And there's people out there that were buying them when they were 60, 100, 120, 160. They were buying them then. So, they can do really well versus somebody, a tiger, a lion coming in. They're the tigers. If they own the property, they're the tigers. And they're just going to look around and see which one of their existing homes would make a good conversion candidate.
Right.
Right? Whereas, a lion would have to come in and, I want, solid glass sliders, all this stuff, updated, modern. Well, now you're at $800,000-900,000 out at the beach.
Right.
And then you say to them, okay, so, you're not putting all that cash, are you? You're going to find this. So then they're going to leverage it. Right. So then you put a lot of mortgage pressure on it. So there's two sides to that coin, where you have to really focus in and target on what you want to start for your first Airbnb.
Right, how you want to do it.
I want to be crystal clear about this. This business model will make you extra money, but it comes with extra risk, a lot of risk.
What are some of the risks? What are some of them? Yeah.
Well, you mentioned it, statutes, regulation. They're regulating heavily in Atlanta. They regulated heavily in New York. Now, that doesn't mean you pull up Airbnb and there are no Airbnbs in Atlanta, New York, Chicago. They're there. So what we're doing is we're working with the city of Jacksonville now to get into compliance, so that if a regulation order does happen, we could at least make the argument, okay, well, we've been going down this road. can we be grandfathered in? Please.
Right.
Okay. Well, then, like,
I like this. I hope that's like on camera when that happens.
Right. So, and so but that's just one threat. Another threat is, 4 times a year, it slows down in our world.
Right.
Hey, in May, families aren't traveling in May. Why? You got the state testing, and school's about to let out.
Right. Graduation. Why are you going to
travel? Graduations. Well, you travel for graduation, but why are you going to travel when school is just about, summer's just about to hit?
Yeah.
Now we're in the same boat. Atlanta schools start like August 5th, and in Florida schools start like August 15th. So August and September are traditionally slower months, right? May is a slower month. January, everybody's punch drunk from all the money they spent on the holidays. So it's slow. And then we hold our breath every year. And then about the 3rd week of January, ding, 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 they all just start pinging in.
Right.
And then what you live for are those juicy months, leading up to the holidays. The spring, February, March, April, smoking hot, the middle of the summer, June and July. And that's what that's what you have to understand, is that you're going to have some down months and you're going to have some up months. And it's like that in entrepreneurship to begin with. So you just have to be able to weather the storm.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting that you're talking about like vacations and travel, right? So one thing I feel like I learned from the Glenn Friedman episode, and I think Jason Matthews talked about it, was like my mind always thought Airbnb short-term rental, beach vacation,
right?
Going skiing, going somewhere else, maybe going to New York for a weekend, right? And all of a sudden Glenn gets on, Jason gets on, and it's like Airbnb short-term rental. It's not just about the vacation. It's not just about the travel. It's also people going for work. It's also people coming down for work opportunities, right? Maybe IBM is sending their software people to Jacksonville, and doesn't matter that it's in Murray Hill, right? Doesn't matter if the Airbnb is Murray Hill. Everybody thinks short-term rental, it's got to be beach, vacation, Disney World. No, it can be on the west side of Jacksonville. It can be somewhere in Orlando that's not popular. And I know that's probably something that you guys talk about too. I know there's so much to digest when it comes to this stuff, but location and the fact that it doesn't have to just be vacation, that's crazy.
Right. I was actually talking to an investor that he was seriously contemplating buying a beachfront home for $4 million.
Whoa.
And I'm like, man, we have got a community here in Jacksonville called Mandarin, right? And it's where all the families are. It's where, where the Labradoodles are playing in the front yards. It's where the great schools are. There's all kinds of traffic there, and nobody cares because they're in Mandarin. I told him, I said, you could buy 8 Mandarin pool homes at $500,000 a piece, right? And outperform this $4 million beachfront home. By far, right? Because a Mandarin pool home, like decked out to the nines, hot tub, pool heater, the whole thing, stone countertops, just done up really nice. Right. Yeah. Primo.
Yeah.
Right. So that's going to make about $80,000 a year. Right. So you're going to make $640,000 off of 8 Mandarin homes, that you've got about $500,000 in on each one. And even if you leverage it, just the cash on cash return is just ridiculous.
You could probably go one step lower too. It doesn't have to even be Mandarin. You could do things in Murray Hill and probably cut the price again and be an opportunity. And now you're owning not just 10, but 20.
Right. I do have a pool home on the west side of Jacksonville that's doing really well. We rented it out to a family through an insurance company for full rack rate because the insurance company was paying for it. And they paid, $380 a night for 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's just, I look for spots like that. I know where to move my cheese so that the right mice will come along and nibble on it. right? And it's super important, that we know where to go and all this. And it just, if somebody comes to me and says, I'm new in investing, I don't know where to start. Okay, well, you're a bear, right? So maybe you get started the same way I did, where you find some place to rent, you pay, market rent for it, you throw it out on Airbnb, you test it out, you see how it goes, right? You just
hopefully there's no restriction.
I started as a bear.
Yeah.
Right. And then I quickly became a lion because I was taking the money that I was making to invest it into new real estate.
Yeah.
Right. And I was just, and because of my experience with what happened in Murray Hill, where the house was doing really well, but we couldn't refinance it out of the hard money, we wound up selling it. Again, perfect timing, 3 weeks before the pandemic hit. Right. And it's just, it's just perfect timing that at least we got out of there. And I remembered my parents had taught me how to buy homes with taking over the mortgage, subject to, and owner financing. But in my mind, I just thought, well, this is a different market than it was in the 90s. It's just, those opportunities aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And I quickly learned that that's not true. If I look for them, they're there.
Yeah.
So, I beat my head up against the wall for 5 years selling insurance over the phone. So I was keeping track of KPIs on how many phone calls it took me to buy a house. And there was one, I made 13 phone calls and bought a house.
Wow.
Another time I made 17 phone calls and bought a house. I get it. I haven't done it in a while. It's a different market. And
see, people don't know that kind of stuff.
Well,
right?
But the houses that I'm buying in this market are the ones that are falling into my lap. Like I made no phone calls to buy the last 3 houses I bought.
Well, it's probably relationship driven too. Yeah.
They literally dropped right in my lap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, sure, let's go.
Right.
Now I've got one that emboldened and just way down in a battle. We're doing architectural and engineering plans. We're doing, we're just doing the whole nine, right? And so Jen comes to me and says, no more. We're not doing another one until that project is finished. And then, now all of a sudden I'm highly motivated to get that project finished because I want it finished. I want it making money. I want it producing. And then I can test my theory on, okay, when I want to go out and buy a house, how many phone calls do I need to make? Because look, it represents a lot of risk. I told this to my wife and I truly did mean it. I said, they could take it all. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, they could take everything, take every house, take my job, take my cars, just wipe us out. If it's me, you, and the kids and the rest of the world, I have this skill set, I can rebuild. Maybe not immediately, but the skill set is there, no matter what the market is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
And when she understood that, she's like, okay. Well, you go out there and you do you, Mark.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna like hang here with the kids, and I'm gonna keep my job no matter what happens there.
Watch you from afar, but I want nothing to do with this.
Well, that's not really but it's just kind of the dynamic how it works. Remember, this is the same woman that came to me and said, "Hey, come on, man, what gives? How come you're not doing as good as your friends?"
Yeah.
So she kind of created this animal. Now she's, you can't put a tiger on a chain,
Yeah.
It's hard to take the teeth out. It's hard to add the teeth to the tiger. It's easier to take a teeth or two out of a tiger. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's a quote card. We're going to make sure that's right there. Boom,
yeah.
Done. Mark, so I know the book's coming out. I really got to ask this. I know the book's coming out. It's going to be loaded. And we'll make sure we put the chyrons. Mike will just circle through the chyrons on the screen. But we got to find out. Basic overview. Basic idea and overview. Somebody just starting out like you were, right? Like I love what Mark's saying. I love all the guests that keep talking about Airbnb. Mm-hmm. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm done with my 9 to 5. I don't want to do that anymore. I see all these people making $50,000, $60,000 a year cash flow on real estate. Forget the buy and holds. Yeah, we love wholesaling, but we want more passive things for our family. Where do we start? What's the first thing we're looking for? Or who are these relationships that we're starting to build with so we can get started in Airbnbs?
Well, the first thing is, and this is what I learned from Greg. as early as like 2016, 2017, is that it's all about the people that you meet. I can't tell you the number of people that go to networking events and they're like wallflowers, right? You've got to go to networking events strategic in mind, right? So what I mean by that is when you go to a Yellowbird event, for example, there's 250 people in that room. Okay, well, number one, that's going to happen every month, right? And if you connect with 5 to 10 people every time you go, before too long, you go every month, and what do you see? A familiar face.
Right.
Like, hey, we connected this time before. Let's reconnect. Hey, we connect. I'm always looking for new people to connect with, and I want to get them talking about what they do. It's great to come on the show and to tell everybody, hey, this is what I've done, blah, 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 blah. It's so exciting. Nobody cares about all that stuff when I'm at a networking event.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want them to tell me what they're doing.
Right.
And then I'll piece out a little snippet like, hey, look, I'm in the Airbnb world. If you've ever got any questions about that, just look me up and maybe we'll do lunch. And that's about where I leave it. In this environment, this is great because I can talk and I can, pound my chest. I'm like, this happened and that happened. And, I had this like dark moment, just all these things that don't really come out at a networking event. So that, again, that's one of the skill sets, making the phone calls to put deals together. That's the skill set. All of that has to be learned. Right. And there's only one way you're going to learn. You have to see it being done.
Like actually watch it, mentor with somebody or have that mentorship or just do it.
Right. I mean, is it possible to read a book, get off the book, right? And then just make your first phone call? I mean, it's possible, but you ever seen a barking dog chase a car? What are they going to do when they catch the car? Right? Oh, I got a deal now. Oh my God. What do I do now?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And everybody comes at this, with a different thing. I mean, a seasoned investor, they're whatever. Oh, I got another deal now. Here I go here, send it here. And here's my attorney. Here's this, here's that. Okay. But what you're talking about is the person who's, in the corporate world, got a corporate job, coincidentally enough, my wife asked me, she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing anything I can. So I never have to stare at the four walls of a cubicle ever again. Right? Like it was such a driving force. I cannot be the only one that's disillusioned by the corporate world.
Oh, I'm sure many people are out there. That's why they want to watch it and do this. I cannot
possibly be the only one.
Right.
Okay. So keep your hustle and grind, keep your day job, because, when you go out and you quit your job, the only magical thing happens is that the little bit of income you have stops. So these networking events are at night. They're, so if you have a traditional job or if you work from home, you can go to these networking events and then you can start learning things piece by piece.
Yeah.
And just, have lunch with people and just look for opportunities.
Right. But when we go to these events, so like people that don't know, like I think I know the answer, right? Like what you're really looking for are the wholesalers too, right? Because they got the off market deals, right? That they just want to get the assignments, right? But you are the potential buyer, right? You're saying no,
or my 40 clients,
right? But you're going to manage it,
right? Exactly.
Right.
So that's actually how one kind of fell into my lap, where I was called in for a consult by a real estate agent, and the investor, wasn't too sure about the idea. I showed him the numbers, and he's like, basically it come down to he wasn't comfortable with the risk, because it is a high amount of risk. I've made no compunction about that.
Right.
But during that conversation, because I wanted to make a point, hey man, you need to buy this house or I will. I wanted to stress the point to him that the deal was that good in my mind. Now the agent spoke up and said, oh no, if he doesn't buy it, I'm going to buy it. I'm like, well, somebody needs to buy it because I want to manage it. All right. So fast forward 2 weeks, I get a call from the agent because it turns out that the seller wanted the house sold. She didn't want it listed. So she didn't want people traipsing through. She didn't want to go through all the rigmarole. She didn't want to go through inspections, all that stuff. Is this sounding familiar?
Yeah.
So she just picked her price and said, if I can get this price, I will pay X commission. You can put the deal together. And, through networking, I was the one that received that phone call.
Amazing.
And the phone call went like this. So for XYZ reason, I'm not going to buy the house and I want to offer it to you. This lady will accept, this purchase price, and then you won't have to bid against other buyers. I couldn't sign that contract fast enough. Now, keep in mind, I kind of broke the rule of I'm not supposed to buy any houses, that kind of stuff. And then I had to,
cave in right there.
Well, no, it wasn't caving in. I was like, listen, I had to kind of break it down. And when she said, well, go there and put together the numbers. In my mind, that was okay, I've received the rubber stamp of approval from the home front.
Yeah.
Go there and present the numbers. And I came back with a contract.
Amazing. You did it. Yeah. It made sense.
Well, because I just had an opportunity to buy a house, had a pool, had a hot tub, and I didn't have to bid on it. It was like, if I would pay that price, which I felt was lower than market anyway, then I could just get that home. So I did.
Yeah.
Because the lady selling it did not want a bunch of realtors and people traipsing through it just because of the situation that she was in. She wanted to sell it to get into her place. She just wanted it gone.
Yeah.
But she didn't want it gone at like 50 cents on the dollar.
Right.
She chose her number that would allow her to move on, and it just worked perfectly.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot more realtors actually would probably prefer that relationship driven way, right? Because when the market was popping, I mean, some of these people had 80 people just show up at the house, or people sight unseen, and so many people were putting in offers, and it gets crazy super fast. But you got that relationship.
Well, I had the relationship, right? And I got called in for the consult. And look, when the market was going crazy, when people were overbidding on houses and stuff like that, if an agent were to go out to a property and say, okay, this is what we could list it for, and this is what could happen, all that kind of stuff, there's nothing wrong with an agent going, you know what? I've got a handful of buyers that they have their financing lined up, or maybe their cash. They're just ready to go. Is there a price that I could sell your house to one of those people? Just like that? Or do you want it to go out to market and go through all the bidding process? Yeah. Now, most people would probably want to go through all the bidding process. Let's get every last penny we can out of it. Okay, it's respectable and that's fine. But if there's ever something going on in their life in which that would not work for them for XYZ reason, this was a perfect alternative. And that's kind of where, the whole MLS thing got started from. It was just one giant pocket listing site. Right. You go from pocket listing to pocket listing to pocket listing. Right. And that's how how it's done. And overseas, it's still done like that. Greg was explaining to me how the real estate world works in Thailand.
Can't even imagine.
It's exactly what you think. It's, you got to go from real estate office to real estate office and look through their books. They have a book, and you just kind of look through it.
Yeah. That's got to be a whole other thing too. Cause you're in a foreign country, do you really own it? How much is it? I don't even want to know what that is.
Oh, you want to talk about title insurance? Oh my God.
Not in Thailand. I'm good. Pass on that one right now. We'll stick to the US, right?
Right. So there's all these things, that come up. And so of course I was talking to wholesalers. I was calling for sale by owners, and I was just asking the right questions. Like, is there a mortgage on the place? Would you consider owner financing? Would you consider letting me take over the mortgage? Right. And after I had a handful of Airbnbs, I had some credibility to show them, so it was a no brainer when I did the sixplex. He's like, I want to see your financials. I was like, okay, no problem. So I just filled out all the forms, put out what everything was worth. And I said, here you go. Yeah. And he took a look at that, and he was like, he quickly realized that I could not earn a penny off of the sixplex and still be able to pay him. it would be super annoying, but it would be okay. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He gave me favorable terms. There's no balloon note.
Yeah.
If I don't need to refinance, I could leave it in place for 25 years and then it's paid off.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Well, and this kind of goes to my next question. This is really interesting, which is Jeff Weller is a diamond in the rough when it comes to Airbnb short-term rental loans, right? Like, so hard to find somebody that actually will do the lending on the short-term rentals. I don't know. I heard that and I was like, wait a second, and then Jeff Weller's doing all this stuff. So how important is it to like really start connecting and really finding out, hey, are you a lender that does this, or do you want to be more of the cash buyer and get somebody to like privately, give you the money, or like, give you cash to help finance that?
Well, there's different ways to do it, right? I mean, you can do a syndication. There's different ways to use OPM, other people's money. Jeff is definitely a viable option. As a matter of fact, has he been on the show yet?
No, he's going to be though.
You need to book him in. He's nothing short of amazing.
Yeah.
So yes, he has some great lending programs available. And I mean, like, he owns the company, right? And he's also an investor. So it's like when people come to him and they want financing on an Airbnb, they're talking to the right person because he has it all. He owns the mortgage company. He has Airbnbs. He has long-term rentals. Like, he's been through what all these people are going through. And he can tell you where your credit score needs to be. He can tell you where the rent rolls and, what that will qualify you for. So the DSCR loans are just nothing short of amazing, and all that stuff. And of course, with the rates going up and there's changes daily in that world, but he's still making it happen. He called me the other day and he's like, I need this piece of documentation. I need this. I need that. Going back to the bean counting, I'm like,
here we go again.
But I just fired it off.
Right.
He sent it to an underwriter and they got that loan approved.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, he's got options, and that's so.
But it's important to build that.
But what you're talking about is a power team. So like, in my world, I needed an attorney that was willing to, help me close loans and do things, right? And that was one of the things that you and I initially talked about. And then I need a real estate friendly agent. I mean, I'm an agent myself. But I'm so busy with the management stuff that the retail side of that is on autopilot for me. I have referral partners, and I just pay for the leads, and that's just kind of there.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I just have too much going on in the Airbnb world to mess with that. Now, of course, if something happens, then I can always just jump in and crank that up anytime I want it.
Yeah.
And it's all about having different paths to take at any given time. But you need a team, right? If you're going to start Airbnbs, you need somebody that's going to go in there and set up those Airbnbs. Now, early on, I was that somebody. And truth be told, those Airbnbs look like they were put together by a guy that doesn't know design, because I don't know design, right? But they still performed, right?
Yeah.
And then I found Ann, and I found Jim, and I found Paul at Kelly's. I just found all these places and found these resources. Then I hired some property managers. I hired the virtual assistants. I hired a tech guy. You see what I'm saying? You got to have a power team. You've got to assemble the team.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen overnight. It was literally born out of, we have this problem. It's painful. I can't solve it. So I had to hire somebody to solve that problem. Pain relieved. Okay, now that allowed us to grow a little. Then now we have this problem, experiencing pain. Hire somebody to solve the problem over and over and over again.
Yeah.
We had a big banking shakeup here in Jacksonville recently. Huge. It was impactful. Yes, very impactful. Seriously impacted my business. Catastrophic accounting failure.
Wow.
Right.
Did you switch banks after that?
There's a lot going on. There's 49 different accounts, so you don't just flip the switch.
Right.
But yes, we're transitioning to one bank, and then we have another bank as a backup. right? Because this bank that we're transitioning to, I don't know if they can. I don't know if as my property manager Rich, he doesn't go by Richard. He doesn't know who Richard is. As my property manager Rich says, it can't handle the pressure. So we don't know if this new bank can handle the pressure of all this Airbnb money flowing through. So we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah.
But I made that completely transparent to my clients. I mean, they knew about it. I mean, everybody knew that ViStar was experiencing challenges. And it was really bad on my end from the reporting standpoint, not the accounting standpoint. It's like, we were going to figure it all out eventually.
Right.
But, people needed their reports. They need to know what's going on. They needed year-end reports. They need to do tax returns, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I got them everything. I got them everything they needed. And it was completely transparent to them, but I had to hire, 3 additional staff to do it. I was more than willing, to do that.
Yeah.
And that's just, where I'm looking for spots to reinvest back in my business to build my power team. So the new person, you need your power team. You need your mentor. You need somebody that's going to help you with this. You need somebody that's going to help you with that. And maybe early on, you are the guy. I called one of my clients. He's on his first house, and he's literally in the attic himself. And I'm like, dude, do you have anybody there with you? And he's like, no. And I'm like, you're in the attic by yourself. I mean, You're ridiculous.
Time
dude.
to delegate.
I literally made him stay on the phone with me until he got down off the ladder.
It's time to get out of there.
I'm like, I can appreciate the ambition, but man, no, you ain't gonna find me in an attic.
Yeah.
You
brought up 2 things, or actually one thing for sure about the power team, which is Jim Stock and Gabby Miller, right? Helping with the furnishings.
Right.
And that's huge too, because people will say, oh, they'll go to the wholesaler. Oh, I'm a buyer. They'll close, they'll buy the property. And it's then, now what? Right. So what's the importance of having that furnishing company like Jim Stock?
Well, it's super important because I learned very quickly that I'm not a designer. I also learned very quickly that I'm not a project manager. Mm-hmm. So babysitting these contractors, I'm like, well, you see what I'm going through with mine. That's just been dragging on and on and on, A&E and all this kind of stuff. So, clearly, that's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah,
but, I know how to have an insurance company come along and pay full rack rate for your house once it's all dolled up. Mm-hmm. So I, myself, become involved when the property is ready for photos. When it's ready for photos, that's when I get involved. I come in. We've kind of developed our own, we call it a little Airbnb inspection. Mm-hmm. So we're going to check the hot water. We've had enough Airbnb units start. First guest comes in, there's no hot water. We're like, wait, what? Nobody checked the hot water? And you'd be surprised at how many times that happened. So now that's in our early checklist, perfect example. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, you build off the experience in these things that you keep finding out.
So that's when I was training Rich, I was like, first thing you got to do, turn on hot water, make sure the hot water works. Then you got to turn on the hot water to the sink and the hot water to the shower and make sure they match. Make sure they both feel just as warm, because the diverters now have a lot of these safety features in it. Like, just pull that thing out. We don't need that little gray tab, because people would rather have a hot shower than a lukewarm one, So,
but it's just all these things,
right? All of those things, and you have to have people that will help you or be willing to do it. And this particular, a couple of these particular guys, they were just willing to do it themselves. They would do the work. They, would go out into the marketplace and find, people that were available. And then I would get a call that says, okay, I'm excited. I've got 3 on deck. They're very close. They're in punch list right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They're in Mandarin. They have pools, all that kind of stuff. I've seen
some of your stuff too. Like, you'll post it and I'm like, wow, like that's the pool home. And then I feel like like you were describing, putting the cheese out there, somebody's going to nibble. And like, I can only imagine how many people also would do staycations.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, we get more staycationers than we want, truth be told, because some of those people are going to come to my place and hang out and party because they don't want to trash their place. Right? So again, that's another risk of the business model. Another risk of the business model is, what happens if the house sits vacant for a couple of weeks? It has happened, so you have to have the intestinal fortitude.
What do you do?
Well, you look at lowering the price. When I was a kid growing up in Doctor's Inlet, like Middleburg, Florida, I dropped my fishing line in the water. I said, "Dad, there's no fish biting." And he'd say, "You're not holding your mouth right. You're not holding your mouth right, boy. You got to move that jaw." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" So we redesigned the ad, or we'll rename the ad. We'll do some changes so that the system will see, hey, we're in there nosing around doing things, and then bump it back up in the ratings. Things like that. We had a recent algorithm change that was hiding properties, and we didn't know that it was hiding properties. So we kind of, had to kind of make some changes there.
Really?
To get in line.
How'd you find out?
My tech guy's really good, and he squirreled it out somehow.
I mean, I bet people would be pissed if they like put all this work into it, and all of a sudden the algorithm is just like keeping it away.
Yeah.
Another risk, another thing that you just don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Right. And there's all these things that you need to look out for. All the more reason to have people helping you through this journey.
Yeah.
Right. The people that say, "Oh, I'm just going to take this on by myself." I was like, okay, well, I mean, not for nothing. I did, I was that guy that took single night bookings, puts a strain on the cleaning crew.
Yeah.
Allows people to come in, throw a party, dip right on out, Oh, you're 18. You just want a place to hang out with your boyfriend? No problem.
Yeah.
Come on over. There won't be any smoking weed going on or anything like that.
None of that. And I bet that perspective has totally changed. I mean, I'm sure you screen and really monitor what's going on.
Yeah. So we developed a list of screening questions that, we were not asking, before. And we want to hear, okay, tell me your story. Tell me where you live now. Why are you coming? How many people can we expect? What are you going to do?
Yep.
And, even we get people who, if you've ever seen the movie House Party, like, I
don't think I have.
So, it starts out where this kid invites like 16 kids. Well, those 16 kids go out and invite 16 kids.
Oh,
and
dear.
Those 16 kids go out and invite. Next thing you know, you show up at this party, there's 1,000 kids there, right? So even though that may not be their intent, maybe what they're going to do. So there was one house, it was Mother's Day, and they literally had 14 cars there. They drove on the grass. They drove on anything, right? And it was very frustrating. So I kind of chimed in. I was like, "Hey, what's going on? Where's all these cars? What's going on?" It's like a Sunday morning. It's like, "Oh, it's just Mother's Day," right? So what do you have then? When you have 16 people in a house and they're all eating, you literally have 6 bags of garbage, right?
Oh my gosh.
And you can't just take 6 bags of garbage and put it in one small garbage bag or one small garbage can and expect the city to come pick it up.
Was it all just outside?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
See, like, I mean,
so, I got to call a guy, say, hey, grab the truck and head over there.
Yeah.
We got to figure it out.
Yeah. No, Mark, I think all of this is like, it's so different, right? I've had Jason, I've had Glenn, I've had Michael Gugio, and it's like every time, like there's a different perspective when it comes to short-term rentals, right? Like you've had your share over the last 5+ years on like all of this stuff. And you see that, and I love the checklist that all of a sudden you're like, hey, this is something we didn't know about before, put it down. Like we're not going through that again with the water heater. We're not going through it again with the 18-year-old and everybody that wants to come in and party, right? Like you're always learning from this stuff, but you can't learn until you really start getting into it, building relationships. So I want to make sure we get to everybody that's like been commenting. I mean, so many
questions.
People.
What are people saying?
Well, so we'll start from the beginning. So Gio's watching. Camille, he said, I'm a huge Airbnb market. And then Lynn's watching, and then Mark Monroe's out there. We got people all over, right? We got people in Lakeland, right? So Kevin's in Lakeland. Warren's out there. What's going on, Warren? George is watching tonight. He goes, I'm taking some good notes. Thanks for the nuggets, Mark. Awesome. Frank Spalding. Frank's actually in the house. Frank's in the house. Yeah, man. He's like actually seeing like the behind the scenes over here. So like cool stuff. I mean, it's awesome that we get to have like this this camaraderie, this in-person feeling when it comes to the show. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
And so Camille asked this question. This is what I was looking for: is would you recommend using hard money buying and rehabbing an Airbnb?
If that's listen, if that's the option that you have available, that's better than not doing anything. But one cautionary tale for you to know is that you have to make sure that you can refinance out of that hard money situation. Otherwise, the extra profits that you're making on the Airbnb will simply go to the hard money lender. Which that's not the end of the world, because if the property is appreciating in value, you can at least win in the end game, kind of keep it going and win in the end. That's exactly what we did with our Murray Hill property, right? We just had to keep on renewing it, paying the fees and whatever it was. And, thankfully we had that as an option, because otherwise we're taking resources from other places and just kind of dumping money into it. And nobody wanted to do that. So I would not discourage you from doing that, but I would make darn sure that it's a property that's got some real healthy comps, that you would be able to get a DSCR, a debt service coverage ratio loan, in which if the property would rent out for $1,500 to a family and you would have a $1,400 mortgage payment, and if your loan to value is right, there are banks out there, through Jeff Weller, of course, there are banks out there that will lend on that at a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's what a DSCR loan is. And you can do that with a myriad number of credit scores and LTVs and all that kind of stuff.
See the knowledge that you have to have when you get into this? I mean, somebody just starting has no idea. Or maybe they have some idea.
You're just saying that because it's true.
Well, wait, of course. I mean, it's like, where do you even begin when it comes to that stuff, right? So it's knowing you and all these guys.
Right. And really, it comes down to the networking. It comes down to the people. It comes down to the training.
Yeah.
It comes down, you've got to get around people.
Yeah.
You can't stay cooped up in your house and think, okay, I'm going to go take on the world and learn how to do this by myself. You got to get out there and meet people, find out what they're doing, see what you can incorporate. And it just slowly builds.
Keeps leveling up.
Remember at the beginning, I said my story started in 1971. I mean, I've had a number of trips around the sun on this thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't just wake up one day and it happened.
Yeah.
Nobody does. You just build on it and just build on it. Get together with people. There's all kinds of networking opportunities. They're not hard to find.
Yeah.
Jack's RIA, Jack's Reef, Yellowbird. The Yellowbird online community with Facebook is
amazing.
Second to none.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me that we don't have anything like that in Miami. I'm like, you don't have anything like that anywhere in the world. Yep. Because you could just get any kind of resource you want. And, it's filtered. I mean, there's thousands of members, right? So it's filtered and you have to vet and all that kind of stuff. But, you could get incredible resources available.
Yeah. Or just asking people, talking to us, talking to people that know other people. And it's just a massive web, right? We may know people that are in all these other states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, wherever it is. We may know where people are when it comes to this stuff. So True is watching. I love it. She goes, nothing like being your own bank. Great information. Absolutely love it. Boston Dave, I see you out there. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Boston Dave.
He's out there.
I love it.
I love it. So, and then Jonah, love the content, loving it. Al Franco, I love it. Thanks, man. Really appreciate that. And just keep asking questions. You got anything you want to talk about? That's going to be huge that we can get through it. So let me ask you this, Mark. What are some things that you see your clients facing when it comes to the Airbnb short-term rental market, like struggles or things that not you per se, but that you can always learn from your own stuff and own mistakes, but sometimes the best lessons are learning from what other people are doing. Like, what are some of those struggles that you see your clients and other people doing?
Well, okay, so here's a perfect example. When I got started, we were taking West Side homes, normal blue collar homes, and we were putting the market on its ear because we were making double, triple the revenue. Okay. Then, somewhere along the way, somebody brought me a pool home and it had a pool. It was missing a heater, and it had a hot tub. So the heater would heat up the hot tub, but not the pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the status, right? House was immaculate. It was located in a decent area, a little small, like 1,500 square feet. Okay. So one of the challenges that we encountered was, at first, the owner wanted to kind of really curb costs and, kind of keep a tight squeeze on costs. And since the rehab had already been done, there was really only a few things that it needed. It needed some touch-up paint. It needed a panel, which they were able to get the seller to do. And then it needed its furniture. And that was it. And he went all out on the furniture. But then with the pool, he didn't want to buy a pool heater because he felt like, well, the pool heater that heats up the hot tub will heat up the pool. That's true. But so we wound up talking to a lot of different pool people, kind of figuring things out. So one of the things that we've learned through this, I think we're at like 11 pool homes. So a pool home will outperform a home that doesn't have a pool. A pool home with a hot tub will outperform a pool that does not have a hot tub. Right?
Of course.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, we want both.
Right.
Absolutely.
And all of the pools have to have heaters, or there's just really no point. And here's what we discovered this summer. We had some investors that said, you know what, it's summertime right now, so we don't need a heater right now. I'm like, okay, well, that's respectable, and that's fine. That's true. I mean, you jump in the pool. It's Florida, whatever, right? Even over the summer, people gravitated towards the heated pools. Now, they didn't turn the heater on when they were there, but it's something about the psyche of the consumer. When they saw that it was a heated pool, what does that tell you about somebody who owns a house? If you will take the time and inclination to put a heated pool in there, you're definitely taking care of this house.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
it's like if the barbecue's not working, it's like, what are you doing, man? Like, you want all these things working. I've seen that before, right?
Yeah,
you go to an Airbnb,
thing.
it's like,
it's a thing. So, and then I have that conversation. It's like, do you even want a barbecue there? You know what? I put a kettle grill there. Fire up the charcoal. They can crisp their meat right on the charcoal, and then you just let it cook itself down to 2,000 degrees and it cleans itself. It's all good.
Yeah.
Whereas if we have a gas grill, now, me or somebody on my team has to schlep a gas tank around and go swap those things out.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty funny because I got a call from Glenn. He's like, what's the $64 at Raceway Express? I don't want your guys, buying gas and stuff. And it's like, yeah, dude, I know what that is. You sent me over there to swap out the tank at the gas tank.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. You want it to be like great for the customer, great experience. You want to like them show up and what is going on.
Like, hey, we're going to do the grill. I got the meat here.
Yeah.
And the grill's not working.
Right.
I'm like, all right, well, we hit it on over.
Been there, done that.
Right.
So I know that experience.
Right.
Like, you got the burgers, you got the steak.
When we were in Clearwater, that happened. You remember that time I invited you over for a steak?
Yes.
I went home that night. And because, I was staying at an Airbnb and the gas went out, and the guy had a neighbor, and he called the neighbor, and the neighbor had an extra tank.
What luck is that, though?
So you're right. Yeah. So, I mean, he had it figured out, but because he was an offsite manager, he wasn't in the same city.
Interesting.
He was, up north.
Yeah. I mean, those are struggles, right? These are things that, and you get into this and you're like, I'm going to make 50,000, 60,000, but you're going to run into this.
And the slow months. So the slow months are a struggle, right? And, Airbnb changes their algorithm and, doesn't tell anybody about it. It's like, okay, well, we just start we get out in the world and we kind of, figure that thing out.
Yeah.
That's in our wheelhouse. And my guy was able to ferret it out. He figured out what changes we need to make, and it had an immediate impact on increasing the number of bookings, that we're getting.
Yeah.
And, I tell my investors, look, I actually had one investor pull the ripcord, but, the first bad month comes along, and that was May. And he's like, I'm going to do something else. I'm done. Like, okay, well, it's your property, your rules. That's fine. But, those are that's going to happen, 3 or 4 times a year. That's going to happen in May. It's happening now.
Yeah.
It's going to happen in January.
Yeah. Are there some strategies though you can pivot on where you could say, well, maybe we won't use it for vacations, but you can market it to something else so you don't have any lulls?
It's funny you say that because I have a Ponte Vedra home who has 100% occupancy for August and September. Right. And those are traditionally months that are struggling. Right. You see what I'm saying?
What's the usage?
You mean where they come from?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't an insurance claim. It was just a long-term, like the people were they have a house.
Yeah.
They're renovating it and they want to stay in that house while they were renovating it.
Ah.
Right. So we have that going on in a couple of houses. And then we also have the insurance companies that will find us. And my whole thing about the insurance companies is I know who they are. There's a handful of them. I have the contacts and I reach out to them from time to time. They know who I am. And here's the number one thing I do with them is I make myself as easy to work with as possible. I want to be as easy as possible to work with them. Mm-hmm. And then they always come back and they always say the same thing. I'm going to keep your number. I'm going to let everybody in the office know if you ever get a claim in Jacksonville, Florida, this guy's your guy. And then when they call us, like, okay, it's no problem. We've got 100 people to choose from. We have a pretty aggressive pricing strategy. It tends to, when you look from this day forward, it looks pretty scary. But when you look from this day back, it doesn't really look that bad. Mm-hmm. So we're getting a lot of last minute bookings in. But what is the magic of what that allows, right? That allows somebody to come in that needs a place for 3 months to book. Right. And there are some people out there who they're not comfortable unless they have a completely full calendar. Like they want people to be able to book out a year in advance and all that kind of stuff. A year in advance, you can just throw the pricing model out. Like you don't know what the pricing and the demand is going to be in a year.
Right.
Right. And so some people are offering discounts for a year out. And we're actually experimenting with charging a premium. So back in March, we had somebody who wanted to book in November, and we actually allowed them to do it. They paid a premium because they wanted to know in March that they were booked.
Right.
I
was going to say, is there like an upside to actually like keeping like November, December, and all those future dates off that they can't book? Is there like an upside to saying?
Well, right. Yes, exactly. Because, the person that calls me or the client that calls me and says, I'm very distraught. I have an empty calendar. I'm like, okay, I can appreciate that. However, if you had one booking that was 3 weeks from now, and then there's somebody that needs a house for 2.5 months for a project, your house is now invisible to that person. Hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's really just a different way of thinking. Yes, it speaks to, okay, here's the risk. Yes, is it possible that, you can have an open calendar and then, the home sits vacant for a while? Sometimes it does happen, and when I was growing this thing, it was always, man, I wish I had more houses because there'd be no room at the end.
Right.
I have 10 of them. 10 of them are gone. It's like, oh man. People would call me. At that point, people were calling me and going, well, do you have another house? You have another house?
Yeah.
And then I got, really sneaky where I had a house that I was going to flip and I threw furniture in it and I rented it out on the side. I rented it out for like 6 months without ever even putting it on the platform. It was just overflow. They would say, do you have anything else? I'm like, yeah, I got this other house in Cedar Hills. It's got like 7 beds. Like, let's go. And they would just pay me direct and rent it. That was the house that I rented to 3 Rottweilers, and the humans stayed free.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the insurance company called me. First thing that she said is, you're the 22nd person I've spoken to. Will you rent to 3 Rottweilers? And, of course, this was one of the insurance contacts. And I was like, sure. So
hopefully they behaved.
They actually did. And here's the other thing. On an insurance claim, if the policy is written correctly, in such a way that they have to rent a house because of a claim on an existing house. Whatever liability they had on their house transfers over to that temporary rental.
Interesting.
Hello. Now that's not
Opportunity.
automatic,
Yeah.
but I did actually confirm that myself with the insurance company. They confirmed it. So yeah, they stayed 2 months. They paid rack rate, and collected a deposit for the Rottweilers. Even went over there one time and interacted with the Rottweilers, and they were giant babies. So there was one that was like 7 months old, and they kind of kept that one separated from me because they're still kind of training that one.
Yeah.
But the two older ones, they were giant. They were like super sweetheart.
Yeah.
They wanted to like snuggle and cuddle on the lap, and it's like this 90-pound dog wants to come lap dog. It was the funniest thing.
Yeah, but that's also like sight unseen. You didn't know that was going to be the whole story.
No, who knows?
But a lot of people would be scared to actually put that in. So.
Right. But we found out the extra liability, and we got the deposit.
Yeah.
And we made it all work.
What's some of the downsides? I mean, you talked about the premium. That's really interesting. I didn't think about that, like putting a premium on dates that are super far out. What are some of the downsides to doing that, either from your perspective or the person that's booking it?
The downsides to
putting that premium, charging a premium.
Well, we haven't found one yet, right?
That's interesting.
Because eventually the calendar, I book out 90 days in advance because I have really good data then, right? I know what the demand is. If the demand is down, then I know I need to lower my price. If the demand is up, then I know I need to raise my price. And I'll actually look at the calendar, and if I've got 5 or 6 bookings already out in the next 6 weeks, I'm going to go ahead and raise my price, right? Because I took it from the perspective of, okay, an empty calendar is your best friend, knowing that an insurance company that's going to come along and pay full rack rate is only going to find me if the calendar is clear, right? And then we just offer hefty discounts like right at the last minute, and gas prices went up. So there aren't as many people traveling now. There's still a lot of homes. If you pulled up Airbnb right now and saw how many homes were available for this holiday weekend, like it would surprise you.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
Pool homes?
I don't know. I didn't look at pool homes. I was just, I wanted to kind of get okay, what do we need to do about pricing? What specials do we need to run? Yeah. So the first thing I do is I jump on Airbnb and I look, okay, if I have 6 people and I want to stay in a 3-bedroom house, how many of them could I find? And I found a lot.
Yeah. See what I'm thinking? I want to look for the pool homes, right?
Right.
The pool homes with the jacuzzis that are heated. Right. So it's like, this is a long weekend. So the thought is, hey, where is that? Right.
I don't have a pool home with a jacuzzi that's heated, that's vacant this weekend.
That's crazy. See, that's great tips from Mark right there. Like if you're really trying to get into it, that's something you want to find. And if maybe it doesn't already have a jacuzzi already, if you're buying it from a wholesaler or buying from an off-market deal, that's another add-in. That's just another bonus. Speaking of which is like pool home, heated pool, jacuzzi. What's another thing? Grill, but like, what's another thing that you hear renters that come in, Airbnb people that I love this. I love that you have this.
Outdoor areas. So like we have shade area and we have string lights up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So people really like that because when they come here, they want to go outside in the evenings and drink their drinks on the portico. Or they want to wake up in the morning and have their coffee while the dew is still on the ground.
Right.
And so that's something that people really like. You mentioned, of course, location. One of the, top locations in this area is Mandarin because there's a lot of people that come and they're visiting their families. Their families live in Mandarin. So they would be okay being close to Mandarin. And then like a sleeper area is Intercoastal West, 5-10 minutes from the beach, but not at the beach. So you see what I'm saying? So if somebody's traveling from Atlanta, where when we're sunny here, they're always overcast in Atlanta. It's amazing how different that is, only 6 hours away. But they like to come to Florida and enjoy our sun, right? So if you say to them, hey, we got a place that's pretty affordable and it's a 5-minute drive to the beach. They're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the people that are staying on the beach or on 3rd Street or 4th Street, 4 blocks off the beach, they're paying such a premium.
Oh, I bet.
And they're there. I mean, people are renting them, So yeah, Intercoastal West. And then also in this area, like right here where we are right now, we're very close to the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
So anything in this area that's not in an HOA
is good. Yeah. I mean, you drive around here. It's like amazing, amazing area, amazing community. So like you can't miss if you're going and buying in this area. Right. And again, like you were talking about location, and I wrote this down. Are there any analytics that you look for when it comes to, I think this property is going to cash flow better than something else in another neighborhood? Are there any indicators that say, before I really get in this deal, even though it looks like a sweet deal, if I'm doing Airbnb, I want to make sure that this specific property is going to cash flow versus rehab and list it out?
Well, I can pull a report off of Price Labs. So if you just look up Price Labs, you can pull a report. It's like $10 a report or whatever. Yeah. So, they're using it to generate revenue. And it'll give me historical data. But, past performance does not guarantee future success. Like, you have to kind of, add the human element. And one of the things I'm always going through with my tech guy is he's like, automation. Okay, well, sometimes you can automate and the lemmings are, flying off the cliff. And then we don't realize there's a problem with the automation until we come around the corner and there's a pile of lemmings on the bottom of the canyon floor.
Right.
Like, so that's the human side of it, where set up the automation, but watch it with your eyes, see it for yourself.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is, okay, so here's this house, here's this location, here's its features. Well, that's kind of close to this one. So I would expect that this house would perform pretty close to this one. You see what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah.
And then I'm going to look for things. And I can always see, cracks in the armor, if you will, if the decision was made, and sometimes it's a financial decision and there's just no choice. Oh, man, we can't do the fence right now. We're going to have to do that later. Hey, I'll add the heater, after the summer. I want to get some bookings in. Well, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We didn't get a lot of bookings in because people were gravitating towards the heater homes even during the summer, right? So it kind of put us behind the 8 ball, and I'm behind the 8 ball on a couple of mine, and so much as some projects that need to be done, and this slow time is a good time to get those projects done. So one of my handyman contractor guys, he literally has 4 jobs lined up. He's on one right now, and he's got floors here, cabinets here, drywall here
on vacant property, on a vacant
on a home that's currently not rented.
See, that's another positive. I mean, you would look at vacancy as like it's a bad thing, or like, oh, we're slow, but actually it's an opportunity to improve and
but grow. It's scary.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Owner. Okay, so now we're in a little bit of a slow time.
Yeah.
This is a really good time to freshen up the home. So now you're making less money at this moment, and you got to spend some.
Yeah.
It's like it really takes some intentional fortitude.
Yeah.
To take that on. But what you're looking at is overall, if you took 12 months of data, are you going to outperform, just renting it out to a family? Most often the answer is yes. Sometimes then the second question is, okay, is that outperformance worth all the extra work, effort, energy? Because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just have to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And kind of decide, okay, this is where we're going to go.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much. Everybody, I hope you're learning from this. And I love people are watching, people are loving what's happening right now. And I love that people are asking questions. And Jonah said, are the tax benefits the same on STR as long-term rental? So like, I mean, Mark's not a CPA or, understands all that stuff when it comes to taxes, but he sees enough of this from the investor perspective that maybe you have a take on it.
Well, their whole crux is, okay, is it a business like a hotel, right? Which has business taxes, corporate taxes, all that kind of stuff. or is it passive real estate? In other words, do you have to report it as business ordinary income, or can you use your Schedule E, right? So there's a series of questions that your CPA will ask you, and based on the answers to those questions, will tell you whether you're going to report as business income, or passive income. And coincidentally enough, one of those questions is are you managing it yourself, or are you hiring a manager?
That matters.
It matters. That's one of the questions.
What's the difference?
The IRS. Well, because it speaks to, is it passive, right? Why are you going to pay, self-employment tax on a passive activity? We didn't write these rules. It's kind of crazy, that how complicated the tax code is, that it's actually easier to fill out 1065s and 1120s than it is to fill out a 1040, right? That's like a little,
I don't know anything
secret
about that.
It's a secret in the world. Like on business tax returns, they're going to ask you 25 questions about foreign money and 3 questions about where's your money come from. And look at everything that they're doing on the personal tax. You got Schedule E, Schedule C, Schedule F, Schedule this, where'd this money come from? Did you get an IRA distribution this year? It just becomes all so complicated, and that a lot of that stuff, it's kind of simple in a nutshell. I'm probably pissing off some CPAs right now, but
disclaimer.
Right, disclaimer. But I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you have to answer those questions for your CPA, and then take the guidance and direction of your CPA, because you're the one that's ultimately responsible.
Basically, there's opportunities. There's opportunities in a certain way based upon the answering the questions and what you're actually doing, like the team you've hired out and all that stuff, right? So, in a nutshell,
I have property managers that I hire, so they're on staff.
Yeah.
So my property management is an active business,
right? Payroll, going through
payroll,
all that.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
But my Airbnbs are managed by a management company. So it's you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
yeah.
I'm following the rules as they were presented, sir.
Yeah. And get with your CPA if you have any questions when it comes to that. But that's like a great perspective when it comes to getting in all this stuff. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Camille says, what are your biggest money makers? 3-bed, 2-bath, bigger, smaller?
So the biggest money makers are the 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom homes that are set up correctly. It's a huge mistake to take a 4-bedroom home and just put 4 beds in it. And actually, one of our things, if we mention where they could send the text, Al.
We'll definitely put that up, Mike. Let's make sure it's
to that. But that's one of the things you get is 9 things that you need to know before starting an Airbnb business. And that's one of the things that you learn, that you absolutely have to maximize beds. You have to figure out a way to get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 beds in that house, even if there are 2 or 3 pull-out couches. I've seen people do it with air beds, but air beds, they don't hold up well, So I mean, it all got started on air beds, right?
Yeah.
But they just don't hold up well over time. So, that's the number one driving force. 3 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms and a den. You can operate it as a 4-bedroom and just maximize beds, 2 or 3 beds a room if you can get it.
Yeah. I mean,
some of these houses have really large rooms. Like Jeff has a house. The room was so large, it literally fit, 2 queen beds. And I have a room that's like 24 by 12. It's got a queen, and a twin, just lined up in it. It's 24 by 12. It's just insane.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So there's different things you're looking for when it comes to the usage, right?
Absolutely.
The room size.
Right.
So it all really depends on what the usage is, right?
Multiple units. You have, when you're looking at multiple units and how well they're going to do, you have to make sure that people can control their own AC, that they have a private entrance, and that they have a place to park.
Yeah.
Yeah,
big stuff. Love it. I mean, so many people ask these great questions, and I love what people are asking. When it comes to getting into any niche, right? Whether it's short-term rentals, rehabbing, wholesaling, everybody loves learning from the courses or learning from the books and getting inspired by that. So in your world, what have been those 3 books that have been just instrumental to really getting involved in your journey with Airbnb?
So I read this book when I was 20 years old, and it really kind of changed my life. It's George Clason, The Richest Man in Babylon. So it's just kind of like this parable story about somebody who was young and didn't know what to do, and how simplistic money principles, can apply to today's modern world, right? And it was really life-changing because it talks about kind of like the mindset to have, to avoid debt. But when you have debt and it's leveraged correctly, one guy, he went into debt to put a roof on a house that was an income producing property. I'm like, look, I can understand how that's uncomfortable, right? But it's not like you went in debt, being a baller for your friends, picking up dinner when you can't afford it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you see the difference?
Yep.
It's like, yeah. And that property went on to make, $6,000 that month. So then he took that money and he paid down some of the debt and he felt better about it, right? So it talks about that kind of stuff. The Richest Man in Babylon. Another book, this guy named T. Harv Eckert, right, wrote a book called The Millionaire Mindset. This guy, T. Harv Eckert, if you're out there, I would love to have a beer with you, because this guy talks about, okay, this is what you do with your money is you divvy it up. Like, if you could like parcel off your money into a separate account so that you don't even see it, that's fine. And then, a third of it you set aside. I mean, you're going to need money for taxes. You're going to need money for emergencies. A third of it you set up as an operating account, and a third that you have available to pay your bills. And the first thing that everyday people say, it's very common. Well, a third of what I make is not going to pay my bills anyway. It's like, that's all right. I mean, the bills aren't getting paid as it is right now. So make a large radical change and then adjust to it. I'll divide the money up into thirds. And then if I have to mix and match the money for whatever reason, so be it.
Right.
But at some point, it was a magical time where I divvied up the money. And then I didn't have to do any chicanery. Now, when I want to do some chicanery, it's to buy an income producing asset. Changes the whole game. Changes the whole game.
So it really inspired you to go that route. Exactly.
And so even the guys at the dealership, when I bought a car, I was like, nah, take a payment. It's not a big deal. Cash is king.
Yeah.
Right. That's the Robert Kiyosaki thing. Cash is king. Where they're like, well, why don't you just pay this thing off? I'm like, look, the last house I bought, not the last house I bought, but a house I bought 2 or 3 times ago, it literally cost me $1,000 to buy it. Like, at closing, $1,000. How'd you do that? Another time, another story. But it's what I do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So why would I pay 20 times that for a depreciating asset when I could go out in theory and buy 20 other income producing homes? And those guys at the dealership, they were just scratching their head. So I was like, give me the payment, give me the interest. I'll write it off anyway. Doesn't matter. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I mean,
that's that's just a different way. Now, Kiyosaki has a different take on it. He's like, go ahead and buy those income producing assets, then use that money to, pay for your car, pay the cash flow and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's, that's
different philosophies and theories behind why you're acquiring the assets.
Right. But the key thing to remember is that, he also talks about the financial blueprint too. And that, something happens subconsciously to all of us, where when we get to the level that our parents get, it's kind of becomes a natural built-in set point. Like, my parents had some good years throughout the years, but it's night and day, as far as that. They were working every day. People that were entrepreneurs, they got hit hard during their financial, economic downturns, like in the 70s and in the 90s, and it really spoke to me, because when I rose above that level, you start making decisions subconsciously that self-sabotage that bring it down. But once you become aware of it, you can break through that level and break through your financial set point. But he talked about how his mother had him convinced that, since he has money now, he's a bad person. And he came up with a really creative way to solve that problem. he bought her a condo in Hawaii. And he said it was the best of both worlds. But now she thinks having money is good because she got something really good out of it. And she's out of my hair for 6 months out of the year while she's in Hawaii instead of in Snowland, you know? So I just was chuckling when I read that. I'd love to just sit down and have a beer with that guy. But, you know, so those books. And then, of course, you know, Kiyosaki's book.
Yeah, right.
You know, he
Classic.
talks about, just, you know, one little snippet there talks about, you know, I'm faster to pay my contractors, you know, than I am to pay my mortgage, right? Because I want my contractors to know that when they send a bill, man, I'm going to put it through as quickly as humanly possible. You know what I'm saying? And that's right out of Kiyosaki's book.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you have them, you know, on the ready. Like that works today, even in this market.
Amazing.
You know,
so
they know
these books,
when they send me a bill, especially if they send me one electronically, and I got this thing near me, I have to bloop, just hit that thing, fire it off. Then they can make their payroll. They can cover everything. And, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all these books combined, it's like the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the skill set that you learned. That's why you said in the beginning, even if everything went down and everything, you had to start all over again. All the way. You have these resources.
I'd go get a job that I wouldn't want. And then I would start making phone calls and I would still do networking. I would just start over.
Yeah. But I mean, you taking all
just
this.
one house at a time.
Yeah. Amazing. Taking all these things that you've learned, all the experiences, all the things that inspired you to get to that level. So like, it's amazing, Mark. I love the mindset. I see the wheels turning when it comes to the way you're thinking and the different philosophies that come out of these things.
And it really does come down to one at a time. Did it one at a time. You know, sure. Do I wish I had 10 houses that I bought 3 years ago instead of 4? Okay, fine. But I've got 4 and I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, my groove, my sweet spot was I wanted to try and buy a house once a quarter. And that was kind of like, and I would set my mindset. I would set my subconscious. And the universe it'll present, the one that fell right in my lap.
Yeah.
Here you go. You don't have to bid on it if you want to buy it.
Right.
Sign me up.
Yeah. Instead of you looking at it as high volume, you look at it as
just grinding
one bite at a time. That's why you said
think of these guys that are like 25, right?
Oh yeah.
And I have a couple of 25-year-old clients, and of course, they're young, they got a lot of energy, they're trying to buy as many as they can, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, what would your world be like if you bought 1 a year, 2 a year, 3 a year, 4 a year? Why do you got to go out and try and buy 30? I mean, if you can buy 30, go ahead, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
But you have to decide where you want to be. That particular guy, he's got a lot of ambition. Okay, I can appreciate that. But the everyday guy that's got a corporate job and a new baby at home and trying to figure out things with mama, you buy 1 or 2 houses a year or 3 or 4 houses a year, your hands are going to be full juggling stuff. But look at where you are 12 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Just over the course of time, something happens and they realize, man, the cash flow has really overpowered the expenses here. What do we do now?
Or need an exit strategy.
Not necessarily an exit strategy, but I mean, you've got all the strategies available. Okay, so you hang on to everything. You refinance, take cash out, buy more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you kind of have to figure all those things out.
Yeah.
Do you improve your lifestyle with you, your wife, your baby? All that kind of stuff. You just have all these decisions to make.
Yeah.
So, and everybody has their own journey, and so they can decide. And that's the beautiful thing about this. When I worked in the corporate world at a big brokerage house that had a mortgage division, I don't want to be name dropping and all that kind of stuff, but essentially these people were private wealth clients, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm digging through their tax returns and I'm seeing the Schedule E's going on for pages. I'm like, this guy's got this real estate. He owns this building, he owns that building. He's got this, he's got, you know, you got the ski lodge in Vermont, you know, like, you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
They all had something in common. It was real estate. I was like, that's insane. No matter what they were doing, they could be CEOs, they could be executives, they could be CPAs, but no matter what they were doing, they all had real estate.
Amazing wealth opportunity, right? A lot of people don't realize that.
And my parents are like, well, yeah, you know, that's why we taught you, you know, how to buy real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mark, I got to say, I love your journey. I love, you know, and I love learning about this stuff that you've been doing. Because again, when we had met back in 2019, I'm thinking, all right, this guy is doing like landlord tenant stuff. And you're like, no. Like, this is a completely different ballgame. And now you've curated it into a program, into a style, a lifestyle, or, you know, something that people can learn and build on. And you provide all of this information. And I want to make sure, so the book's out there. I'll get to the comments because there's some interesting comments there. But Frank, thank you, Frank. Frank was posting anything by Kiyosaki, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, The Richest Man in Babylon, $1 Million Mindset, or Camille said $1 Million Mindset, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so, I mean, those are the books, right? Those are the ones. Love it. Derek, I love Derek Barton's watching. What's up, man? That's awesome. Derek, I mean, killing it in real estate. Derek's doing great in the sub-2 community. So I love the followers out there.
I love it.
Yeah. And thank you, Frank. You know, you were dropping so many golden nuggets as we were talking. It's just crazy, right? Like, to you, this is every day. Right. This is every day. Just like, you know, when I'm doing stuff in probate, to me, that's every day.
Right.
But like when you're talking, there's people that just have no idea about what this stuff is. And they can watch this 5 times over and pick up something new each time. So I love that. But George, he was saying Mark is right about having a certain type of mindset. So that's really important right there. People seeing that, like George seeing that out there is important.
And if you don't have it, you can get it. You know, you can get it through associating with people. You can get it through reading their books. You can get it through education. I mean, you can pick it up. Yeah. You know, like I said, you know, 51 trips around the sun, you know, that'll cure what ails you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's great. And there was somebody else out there. I saw a Facebook user saying, Al Nicoletti, you're looking good, bro. Been working out. Man, let me tell you something. That's a whole. That's a different podcast.
Right,
that's a whole other
podcast.
thing.
That's right.
Not on Airbnbs, but you know, thank you. I don't know who it was. I just saw a Facebook user. Just want to say thank you, Boston Dave, for pointing that out. It's a crazy story one day. But you know, it's awesome that we closed on that. So Derek's been working on this whole probate case, this whole thing. You know, I got the probate done and working on getting it, and it turned into something that was really easy done. You know, and maybe he's gonna have an opportunity to do an Airbnb. I don't know what you're gonna do with it, Derek. Maybe you're gonna wholesale it out or something. But that's awesome that we got close on that.
All
today.
Options are on the table.
Yeah, awesome.
You know, I love it.
Yeah, Mark, how can people get in touch with you? What are some of the things that you're offering? Like, I know you're going to have the book that's coming out. I know you got the free PDF that a lot of people would take value on.
So we have a free PDF that's 9 things you need to know to start an Airbnb business. I'm also offering consultations. So if you have a house that you want me to investigate, you know, if it's local, you know, I can actually walk it. If not, I can take the photos, take the address, you know, kind of give a brief snippet, you know, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, kind of give an overview of how the house would do. And you just text Al, A-L.
I like this.
You know, to the number, I think it's on there. Yep, it's on there right there. To text it to that number right there. You'll get a link, and then you follow the link and you can join our group. We have a private Facebook group, one Airbnb at a time. And on that group, you know, we put videos up and we do content, and, you know, it's all a work in progress,
right,
you know,
right.
But it's a great resource, and that, you know, there's already a handful of people out there, and, you know, you can interact with me. You can ask questions. You can send me direct messages. You know, you can reach out to me. You know, I'm not hard to find. You know, I'm kind of born and raised in this area. So, you'll definitely be able to track me down there.
Yeah.
And then, you know, send messages through Facebook.
Yeah. I mean,
we can connect.
Yeah. We want people to reach out to Mark, talk about these things. He has all these PDFs, the book coming out. Do you know when it's coming out officially?
No, we don't have an official timeline on that yet. We just know it's in the works.
In the works.
It's
nice.
Definitely in the works.
Yes.
Definitely putting the content together.
You're writing
organized. Yeah.
See, that's what matters, right? There's no ghostwriter. Like, this is coming from the powerhouse of short-term rentals, yourself, Mark Marcellus. Like, I love that. Like,
my friend Jeff Weller, he actually wrote a book too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So he's in the mortgage world. So he wrote a book about mortgages so that he could give those to his clients and they can understand, okay, this is what we go through in the mortgage world. This is why this is like this.
Right. Well, we need that book whenever it comes out so we can put it on the shelf.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at this, a collection of like
right. It's got to be
books.
On the collection.
Yeah. I mean, all these people are authors that have been on the show too, so we want to make sure, even if you have a cup too, I don't know if Frank, if you're getting any mugs or stuff, now he's going to make a mug definitely because of the shelf. So we'll make sure we get it up there. But Mark, I mean, this has been jam packed with stuff. I know we got some James has been watching. He goes, thank you for sharing your knowledge. I have a property and is interested. However, the exact comments that you mentioned as the downside is what my wife and I are concerned with. How do you suggest to address the concerns to make the decision to host? It's a great question.
Right. Well, I mean, really, you have to decide your risk level. And if you already have the property, what's really at risk? What's really at risk? Okay. So you buy some furniture. All right. So, okay, worst case scenario, you got to sell the furniture, or now you've got a rental that's got furniture in it. You can bump it up a little and just rent it out furnished. Mm-hmm. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you already own the property, you have less risk to try this and to just test it out. And that's the thing you do. You try it, you test it, you've got to try and hang in there and give it a year, If you're going to just try it for 2, 3, 4 months and see how it goes, like, how it's going to go. It's going to go up and down, up and down.
Just like you're talking about.
What you want to do is get a chunk of time and then do a look back. And that's where Jeff is right now. Jeff actually has the request in. Okay, it's time for our 12-month review. Let's go. Let's see which homes are doing well, which homes are struggling. What are we going through? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that would be my number one, piece of advice. Is to really, what I should do is do a Zoom call with him and his wife so I can show him some numbers on, okay, tell me about the house. Here's some numbers on a similar type house, and this is what it's done.
Yeah.
Right. And then they can just make their decision from there. Because at the end of the day, all you're doing is buying furniture, throwing it in there, and testing it out and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, you either like it or you don't.
Well, James, Mark just gave you right there an opportunity. Definitely connect with him, reach out to him, because that's something that if you want to get into or you see an opportunity there and you want to just get over that hump, Mark's the perfect person to talk to about that. So definitely connect with him. James is asking a great question. So, what is your suggestion on furniture budget?
Well, on the top end, I normally budget $2,500 per room. So, you've got a living room and 4 bedrooms. So, I would budget, $12,500. That's everything though. That's every last dish, every last pillow, that's pull-out couches, extra beds, that's everything. So I would budget at $12,500 and in some cases you can beat it. Sometimes you can do better than the budget.
Yeah.
But I would have that in mind in your budget.
Yeah.
The days of, outfitting a house for, $2,000, those days are gone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jason Matthews even talked about that.
Yeah.
He was talking about how there's some people that when it comes to furniture and furnishings, I mean, it's super expensive. And he's like, you don't need to get into all that kind of stuff. All you need is just something there that looks appealing, is not overly expensive. Because at the end of the day, what are you trying to do?
Right.
Trying to make sure you cash flow out, but provide.
I've seen people do it both. I've seen people go to Ashley's and Rooms to Go, and I've seen people, go get, furniture that comes out of a hotel.
Yeah.
And look, when you go to a hotel, that furniture is built like a brick shit house. I mean, it's sturdy. right?
Yeah.
And that rooms to go stuff, I just don't know what kind of abuse it can handle. No slight on them. I just, don't know what kind of abuse they can handle.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Find good stuff.
Hotels are not buying stuff from rooms to go. Let's just put it that way.
Oh no, some of those desks and furniture in there,
Right.
It's like you knock on, it's hard as a rock.
You could land even this one. You could
well,
land a
different.
helicopter on this one.
I don't know about this one, but yeah, I see that. And James, great questions. We love the audience always interacting. So again, reach out to Mark. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that it's like. A lot of people, they keep it in their head, right? And this is why we have the show too, to get it out. This is why it's great you ask these questions, you connect with Mark. It's perfect. So, and George, I love it, George. He goes, I got to hurry up and get my 3 Airbnbs. See?
3 Airbnbs to financial success.
And
that's right.
one at a time, and get it and find that opportunity and get those 3 Airbnbs. George is going to do it though. He's crushing it when it comes to that stuff. So I love it.
Where does George live?
George is here in Jacksonville.
George is here in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So, definitely George, connect with Mark too. Anything at a Yellowbird event, Jack's Re event. I mean, George is everywhere. So
yeah, I'm at the Whitey's, the fourth Tuesday of every month. We do a lunch at Whitey's. Glenn Friedman does it at the Jack's Re. Mm-hmm. I'm at every one. So that's a really good time for us to meet because I plan the whole day. We're there and we have lunch, and then after lunch, the people that I want to talk to and the people that want to talk to me, I stick around. My poor property managers, they drive down there with me. They're like, come on, man, we got good properties to go see. Yeah. And I'm just, just jabber-jawing away, talking to people, So that's a really good place to come. And of course, Yellowbird has their events.
Yep.
I think their next one is coming up in October.
Yeah, October 6th.
September.
Yep.
Because of the holiday, I guess. And so, there's the Jack's Re. There's all kinds of local networking places that you could go to that you could meet us at.
Yeah, I love it. There. Yeah, you're there. We're there. I mean, that's the whole purpose, right? We're in the local community, all networking, all meetings. So love it. And I gotta say, everybody out there, I'll do my whole recap on everybody that's been watching tonight. But I gotta say, Mark, the amount of knowledge and education and golden nuggets and gems that you've been able to drop tonight. I mean, we're 2 hours in. I love it.
We are not 2 hours in.
Yeah, we are 2 hours.
Holy cow.
It's because it's been so much fun talking about this stuff, right? Yeah. And it's like the amount of things that people can learn, and the micro is going to be like mind blowing, right? Yeah. On what people can learn from. And again, we'll make sure we drop all this stuff. I just want to say thank you for coming out. I'm so glad. I was like last week, I'm like, hey man, weren't we supposed to be on the calendar? And you're like, yep, done. Like, I think I texted you and it was like crazy, like how it worked out. So, I'm really,
I'm truly, like humbled and honored and blessed to be able to come here and share my story and have people, come learn about, some of the struggles and some of the challenges that I went through. Because, this is a road to go down. No road that we go down is going to be necessarily easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, it's not easy, living without money and it's not easy living with money. I'm going to choose my not easy situation the best I can.
Right. Yeah. Go down that path and run for it.
That's right. I'm going to go for it.
I love it. And as a part of all my in-person guests, it's so hard with virtual guests, but my in-person guests, I always have that one gift for them at the end. And for you, I got the t-shirt.
Oh, wow.
Make sure, like, we got the Al Nicoletti t-shirt.
The Al Nicoletti. I love it.
There you go.
Big Al.
There you go.
I love it.
Yeah, man. We want to make sure you're rocking the swag.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to make sure we get that out there for you. Yeah. Hey, there we go. There we go.
And of course, the first thing you did was give me the mug.
Yeah, that's So everybody out there, the apparel is getting even crazier. So I don't know if we'll cut to that camera. The apparel is getting crazier. Look at that focus, Mike, on that camera. Oh, it was working there for a second, but we'll back it up right there. So, we're really getting into all this stuff right now.
I love it.
I
love it.
Mark,
thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. Absolutely love it. And as I conclude all of my shows, and you talk here in that camera, as all of my shows, I want anything that's on your mind with final words, final thoughts, short-term rentals, how people get started, what to look for, the pitfalls, the successes. Final words, final thoughts, Mark Marcellus.
The final words are just get out there and just take action. Just make steps towards your first one. Reach out to me, find us on the Facebook, come to our networking events, just show up and talk to people and just take steps, towards your first Airbnb. And you never know where it's going to lead. So what have you got to lose?
Yeah, just get into it. Just start one Airbnb at a time. And when you're ready, don't hesitate. Reach out to Mark. The book's coming out eventually. Download the PDF. Get in touch with people like Mark because they see this stuff day in and day out. So again, Mark, thank you so much, man, for being here, coming all this way. And I'm so happy we got to do this in person. It worked out perfectly.
Fabulous.
I love it. So we'll definitely catch up and see what's going on in the next couple months and the years. And I can't wait for the book. We'll make sure we put it on the shelf. So love it, man.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, you got it. Well, everybody, it is a wrap in the in-person Al Nicoletti studio tonight. I'm so happy that Mark got to come here. Again, it's crazy that the schedule worked out. And if you missed any of this, I don't know who was on that jumped on later, or you were on the beginning and then you got to jump in later. Check out the whole episode. Go way back to the beginning. Start again. Even if you got to chop it down at pieces at a time by the content, because there's a lot to digest, but ultimately there's just so much golden nuggets and power when it comes to this stuff. So Mark it's an invaluable resource when it comes to the short-term rental market. I absolutely love it. And the other thing that I don't know, this is the third, fourth episode, Mark, that this has happened. The amount of comments and the engagement on the show is unbelievable. And I love it. I love the followers out there calling you guys the fans. I absolutely love it. Gio and Camille, thank you. I got to do the shout out to the people that are watching, because it's so important. Keep coming back. Keep coming back to the episode and watch Mark's episode again, but also keep coming back to the show where we have amazing guests like Mark that are here. Camille True was watching. Lynn, thank you so much. Mark Monroe, I'm so happy I saw you at the Hive Mind. Kevin, thank you. George, thank you. Frank in the house. Frank, man, thank you. Love those comments. And Carolina was watching tonight. And just so many people that I got to say thank you to for getting on the show. Boston Dave, Jonah. That was a surprise, Jonah. I was like, wait, I don't know if Jonah's seen the show. I know you've seen some of the content, but I love that you're on here watching this stuff. It just means so much that you're all engaging. And Derek, love that Derek closed on that property, man. It's crazy. And I saw 55 and over. So maybe we're not doing the Airbnb, but we're going to find somebody that's going to fit in that role to get to be there.
Is that the one in St. Augustine or the one in Jacksonville?
No, totally different. It's one South Florida.
Oh, it's in South Florida.
Yeah, totally different area. Yeah. But the surprise of the night was James. Thank you for being on. I don't know where you're tuning in from, James, but we love that you right at the end, perfect timing that you were there. So I just want to say, everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us on the Al Nicoletti Show. And we are live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Set the calendar. Right? Put it in your calendar, set the alarm, 10 minutes before, the show's on, put the bell on, go on YouTube, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, and make sure you tune into all these guests that are on, because the Al Nicoletti Show, it's on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, all over YouTube. The micro's constantly dropping on Instagram and Facebook, and you can catch the show on Facebook as well. And it's a wrap, everybody. It's been a crazy cool night talking about short-term rentals with Mark Marcellus. I absolutely loved it. So if you missed it, go check it out. And I will see you all next week on the Al Nicoletti Show. I had to make sure there was the show next week. So I'll make sure. I'll see you all next week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Have a great night, everybody. See you soon.